Okay, we're doing a combination of training video and video for an actual job that we're bidding on. This training video is going to be for crack fill, seal coat, striping, and also curb repair. Okay, so we're going to follow the video checklist on this training video. We should follow the video checklist when making all of our videos, and soon you'll have it down by heart, but we're going to use this for reference. Okay, so we're going to follow the first four line items here. So you can push pause, take a look at it, and then continue with the video. All right, so this job number is 25518. This is called the Northup Way. It doesn't show it on there. Northup Way Business Park. We're looking at curb repair, crack fill, seal coat, and stripe. This is for Pinnacle Commercial. Tyler Jones is my contact, and I've done a couple jobs for him. Recently just got another contract for seal coat and stripe up in Snoqualmie. But he's asked me to come out here into Bellevue and look at this project for a 2021 budget. This is a commercial parking lot. So this business park has approximately 2 to 3 different companies, as you can see over there on the reader board. There's about 3 companies in here right now. There's the ability to have more in here. It's pretty quiet right now, and I think a lot of that is because of the COVID-19 issues this year. So the disciplines involved in here with the crack fill, seal coat, striping, and curbing, it's also going to require power washing in order to get this parking lot looking clean enough, specifically around the curb areas. There is no option pricing in here. We're just given a straight base bid. Okay, now we're going to go through this checklist. As you can see, this is a section that's typically recorded in the vehicle so that we can look at any site maps, aerial maps that we've collected and made notes to. There's no traffic control on this job. This is a private parking lot, and we'll probably have to do this in sections. It's a very large parking lot. Has one entrance that comes in, and it exits out into a neighbor's parking lot right here. But it is a way for people to get out and enter in. So this is an enter and exit where it ties into another parking lot. This is an enter and exit out onto the main road on Northup Way. It comes all the way over. And then this enters into a neighbor's parking lot as well, another commercial building. So there's access for enter and exit right at this location. Then as you go on Northup Way, there's another smaller parking lot that is a one-way in, one-way out. Because this is a business park, the ideal time would be the weekends, because there's really nobody in here on the weekends. So doing it on the weekend would be the best, but we can also do it during the weekday since it's a large enough parking lot that we'd have to section this off into phases. Okay, so yes, there is potential phases in here. The time expectations, this is for 2021, so it's a budget number, so we want to make sure that we're putting a little bit of costs in there for 2021 pricing. This parking lot hasn't been sealed in a little while. It looks like it's probably been more than 5 years. So this is probably the reason why it needs to be sealed. Plus, they probably want to get some new tenants in here and like to freshen up this parking lot. Water access. I'm not positive yet on the water access, but I do know they have it. I believe it's in the center building, which is right here. And we're now looking at this portion of the video checklist. They have not given me a budget. Looks like we're creating this budget for them so that they can look at their pricing for next year. Being that they are familiar with our pricing and have signed us up for a contract, we have a good shot at being the standard to what they want. So as you can see, after this point, we would exit the vehicle And then we'd go through the next phase here of questions to answer on our video. Right before you exit the vehicle, though, if you're able to go over any quantities, it'd be nice to do, as well as show some of the areas on the aerial map if you've made your notes. The goal is to think like a project manager and a foreman, so that way when they are looking at it, we'd be looking at it as well as if we were the foreman or the project manager and need to understand what's going on. CB1 through CB5 are all the curb repairs. This is 6 by 8 inch curb that's out here. Started from the back of the property with marking the first location, which is right here. So from the entrance, if you take the road all the way back, you'll see in one area the curb is missing, and we'll go look at that. There's 24 feet at the next location. Then we circle all the way around. There's 16 feet where there's chipped curbing. Come back around towards the front. There's a 10-foot piece on the end of the planter. And then as you make your way into the middle portion, there's a little 2-foot piece. The seal coating will be per this map and this map. So use this for reference when measuring up the seal coating. The inside estimator will end up measuring this up for us. And being that they can see the boundaries clearly, it'll make it a lot easier to do this takeoff. So we have to make sure that we save this into Google Drive, into the shared file, so that the inside estimator can measure the seal coat. Striping. I've got the quantities right here, so I'm going to give this to you now. There's 198 parking stalls in here. They are all an 18-foot average. So assume 18 feet per stall. There are 10 ADA symbols with the blue background. There are 29 compact stencils that are 8-inch, which, by the way, it's important to let the inside estimator know what the sizes are on the stencils, so that way when the crews go out, they know what size stencils to take. Sometimes there are multiple sizes per stencil. For example, no parking fire lane stencils can be 4-inch, they can be 12-inch, they can be 18-inch, and if all three of those are on the parking lot, we need to make record of that so that the crews take the correct stencils and they don't miss anything, and they are prepared. Yellow painted curb. There is 40 feet of yellow painted curb. I'm sorry, I had to correct the wording there. It was not curbing, it's yellow painted speed bumps that are in here. 40 total feet. The visitor stencils are 8-inch, and there's 5, 10, 15 plus 6, there's 21 visitor stencils that are 8-inch. The compact stencils are 8-inch. And then there's 4-inch white cross hatching, which equals about 20 feet near the back of the property here. There is no fire lane. Okay, now we're out of the vehicle, and I've given most of the quantities. The only thing I didn't give quantities on yet is the crack fill, and that's what we'll talk about here shortly. So this is one of the main entrances here, and down the road is the other parking lot, the smaller parking lot that we will take a look at. Okay. For crack fill, when measuring crack fill, sometimes you can get the wheel out and you can measure the long line cracks throughout the parking lot. But in my experience, a majority of the time you can take a good look at the lengths of all the drive aisles, and typically you've got, two long lines per drive aisle that you can just calculate. If you measured up the drive aisles on Google Earth, you could do that times 2, and typically that will cover a lot of the crack fill quantities that you have. Another way of doing it is taking the whole square footage, and I put in anywhere between 2 to 3%, and that usually gets me pretty close to the amount of crack fill that's in the parking lot. In this situation, they've got multiple cracks that are long line. They've also got patches in here where some of these patches look good, like this, but some have cracking in it that's starting to separate. This would be an area right here where the water's kind of washing away on some of it. If you cleaned it out, it might be a crack that we need to fill. Down in here, you kind of get the same thing where crack fill's been put in, but it's starting to separate. Down here, we want to get some of these long lines that are exposing the cracks, but we're excluding areas like this where there's alligator cracking. That crack down there would be a nice mainline crack that we want to account for. Some of these cracks in there, we want to double check and make sure that they're at least 1/4 of an inch wide or wider. Okay, power washing is very important on the video to explain to what extent we need to do power washing in here. So this parking lot is pretty open, and one day of power washing, a full day of power washing would be sufficient. Areas that need to be power washed are going to be some of these spots where you've got dirt and mud collection. Probably easier to scoop it up with a shovel, but we want to make sure we expose of, all the heavy debris. Customers don't really like it in their flower beds. Power washing, though, specifically, as I went through this parking lot, it was up against the curbs here. We don't have to clean all the curbing for this job. We just need to clean out in front of it where some of the moss and stuff is collected. There's a couple spots here, and it goes anywhere from about 4 feet out to 5 feet out from the curb. So you want to explain when power washing where a majority of the focus is going to be. This looks pretty clean in here, so there's not a lot to do. There's a little bit of green up there. Out in the middle, there's really no power washing to do in the middle, so this video will help our crews and our project managers know, and the inside estimator know, where we're spending our focus. Okay, here's a great example where there's moss about 2 feet out, 2 to 3 feet out from the face of the curb. It's going to be that way throughout the whole parking lot. The project managers, senior management, crews, they don't want to watch really long videos, so we want to make sure that we push pause as much as possible until we get to the next location. So from the main entrance, which was out there, you go to the back, and where that dumpster is, that's where the property stops and goes into the neighbor's property. Okay? Now I'm at the back of the property. This was the first curb repair that I showed earlier, where it's got a little piece right there, it needs to be fixed. Here's another area of curbing that needs to be fixed. Okay, we did about a 16-foot piece here. There's a little piece that's down here that we could fix, but I think the customer is not wanting us to get too crazy on the repairs. They just want to find areas that are broken. Here's the 2-foot piece, which was the last curb repair on that list. One thing to mention when doing a seal coat video is how busy it is in here. It's not extremely busy, so the phasing is not going to be too tough. Granted, we're going through this whole COVID period right now, so you don't see a lot of vehicles, which is a good thing for us. You can see the existing crack fill that's been in here. Okay. Another thing you want to mention is how much shade is in here. You can see there's a lot of shade in the morning, but the sun's right there, and the sun's going to end up coming out this way before noon. And so the whole rest of the afternoon and evening will have a lot more sun on here. So that's a good thing for us. But on the south part of the property where I first walked, that's going to be shaded pretty much all day. So it's probably going to take more than 24 hours to dry completely. I would suggest, if we could, try to work on the shaded area first when seal coating, so that way it has longer time to dry throughout the day while we're here. And then overnight, when the sun goes down, it's going to kind of pause, and it's not going to really dry as fast because it's going to be shaded most of the day. This area in here, though, is going to get a lot more sun throughout the day, and it's going to dry a lot faster. So we probably want to do that area, these areas, after we get those shaded areas done first. Okay, so then the property stops down there by that blue car and that orange van. That tree right there is the boundary line. Okay. You can see the stencils are pretty faded. on the visitors. The crack fill that's in here is around 2,800 feet. 2,800 feet of crack fill on a parking lot this size. That's a pretty typical footage, anywhere from 2,500 to 3,500 feet. When you see multiple lines, plus lines branching off going into the parking stalls like this, that's a pretty typical quantity. We're not addressing asphalt right now. It could be a bid option, but they didn't want any bid options on any asphalt repairs if they didn't see anything major, and that wasn't major to them. Okay, so you can see that it's been seal coated before, and the parking lot is pretty decent shape for its age and for it being seal coated. When we go to clean this, a snuffy, which is usually a good method for dry cleaning, it's definitely going to be needed out here. We need to use a snuffy. The cracks aren't growing a lot of weeds in it, so that's a good thing too. So we don't have to do a lot of work in the cracks, existing cracks. We just have to reseal them. All right, and here's the speed bumps that need to be painted here in the front. That was the 40 feet. A little bit more moss out in front of the curbs there. All in all, this is going to be a nice parking lot to clean. And for power washing, it's going to be a nice one for power washing, because all we have to do is really just go around the perimeter of the parking lot. Okay, I just drove 100 yards down into this next parking lot, which is a smaller parking lot. You can see some asphalt has been done here at the entrance, and it's in really good shape. So it's going to be very easy to seal coat here. Then as you get into this part of the parking lot, it's the older asphalt, but there's hardly any cracks in here. There's a little bit of flaking over here, so when we go to power wash the perimeter of the smaller parking lot, we'll have to spend a little bit of time power washing on some of these crosswalk bars in order to get that flaky paint chipped up. Otherwise, it's going to come up with the seal coat. All right, so now in this training video, we have an idea of what both parking lots look like. We see that it's shaded down here in the morning. It'll hit some sun later on, but then it's going to get back to it being shaded in this area too. So this is one where if it's on a certain phase, we'd want to start on this one probably right away, get seal coat on it, and get that thing drying throughout the day. Let the sunshine, try to dry this as much as possible, because there's not going to be a lot of exposed areas of sun. It's just a very small area. Okay, so those are the key things to know when putting in for crack fill, seal coat, and striping. Knowing the condition of the asphalt, how shaded it is, if we have to power wash, and where we're power washing to spend our time when the guys come out here to do this. The painting, knowing the stencil sizes, how many there are, it's going to be very important. So that way our striping crews don't have to come back a second time to do something that they didn't know about. Okay, and then when talking about the condition of the asphalt, it's knowing whether or not it's been seal coated before, and if it has, how long does it look like it's been. I was saying it probably looked like it's been at least about 5 years or so, maybe more. And what areas are going to be easy to seal coat. Areas like this are going to go by really fast because it's real smooth. This area down here is fairly smooth, and it still has seal coat spread out in most areas. There's not a lot of crack fill to do down here either, so it's decent condition. Okay, so that should wrap it up. The other thing too is trying to figure out how many days we would spend in here. I don't have the exact square footage right now on this, but just looking at this parking lot, it's probably going to take 1 day to do this area in this parking lot, and then we'd probably be able to do half a phase in the bigger parking lot. So we're probably looking at 2 full days of seal coating, 1 full day of power washing. As far as striping goes, there are some stencils to do. There's a decent amount of layout, so it could be done in 1 full day, but we might need to put, two like 8-hour days in here because of the phasing, and we'd probably be safer by doing it in 2 8-hour days because of the phasing. All right? Any other questions? Let me know.